97% of men get attraction completely wrong. 97% of men believe attraction is built by doing more. More texting, more chasing, more proving, more emotional display. That belief is exactly why they are ignored. Because women don't become obsessed with men who add noise to their lives. They become obsessed with the man who brings one rare Stoic trait almost no one has anymore. A trait Marcus Aurelius trained daily. A trait modern psychology confirms creates deep emotional fixation, and most men completely overlook it. Today, I'll show you the one Stoic trait that makes women obsessed. Not briefly attracted, but internally attached. No manipulation, no games, just truth. Point 1. Emotional self-sufficiency. Most men think attraction is about connection. They're wrong. Attraction begins before connection, at the level of emotional load. Women don't ask, "Do I like him?" Their nervous system asks, "Do I feel lighter or heavier around him?" That single question decides everything. What emotional self-sufficiency really means. Emotional self-sufficiency means this: you are emotionally complete without needing someone else to stabilize you. Not cold, not distant, not indifferent. Whole. Why most men lose attraction? Most men are emotionally outsourced. They need replies to feel calm, reassurance to feel secure, attention to feel valuable, clarity to feel stable. Without these, they feel unsettled, and that unsettled energy leaks. Psychology shows something brutal. A woman can sense emotional dependency before she can explain it, before words, before behavior, at the nervous system level. The power of emotional stability. When a man is emotionally self-sufficient, he doesn't hurry outcomes. He doesn't collapse when energy shifts. He doesn't seek reassurance. He doesn't over-explain. He doesn't emotionally chase. His inner state remains unchanged. That steadiness is rare, and rare creates fixation. Marcus Aurelius understood this. Marcus Aurelius trained this daily. He wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." That is emotional self-sufficiency. Why women become obsessed with it. Most women are unconsciously forced into an emotional regulating role. They manage moods, reassure insecurity, stabilize reactions, soften tension. That role kills attraction. A self-sufficient man removes that burden. He doesn't require emotional babysitting, constant affirmation, or continuous stimulation. Being around him feels lighter. And relief is addictive. Psychology confirms this. People bond more deeply to those who reduce emotional load than to those who create excitement. Excitement spikes dopamine. Relief imprints attachment. How obsession forms quietly. This is why obsession forms silently. She doesn't think, "I should like him." Her body thinks, "I feel calm around him." That calm becomes a reference point. The Stoic paradox most men miss. Most men believe, "If I don't show need, I'll lose her." That belief exposes insecurity. Secure men don't display need, they allow desire to move toward them. Here's the paradox. The less you need her emotionally, the safer it feels for her to want you. Need creates pressure. Pressure creates resistance. Self-sufficiency creates space, and space allows obsession to grow. What emotional self-sufficiency is not? It is not ignoring, not playing games, not emotional shutdown, not acting superior. Those are fear responses. Self-sufficiency is inner regulation. How it shows up in real life. When she pulls back, you don't chase. When reply is slow, you stay steady. When uncertainty appears, you don't panic. Your emotional center remains intact. That steadiness signals emotional leadership, and leadership triggers attraction. Why 97% of men ignore this? Because it requires discipline, solitude, emotional awareness, internal regulation, self-respect. No shortcuts, no tricks. Marcus Aurelius again. Be content to seem what you really are. A self-sufficient man doesn't perform, he doesn't manage impressions, he exists fully, with or without validation. The core truth: women don't become attached to men who need them to feel whole. They become attached to men who choose them from wholeness. This is the Stoic trait, emotional self-sufficiency. And without it, no technique, no compliment, no strategy lasts. Here's the part most men don't want to hear. When you need her emotionally, you don't become her partner, you become her caretaker. And caretakers don't feel desire, they feel responsibility. Responsibility kills attraction. This is why women say, "I don't know why, I just lost feelings." She didn't lose feelings, her nervous system got tired. Stoicism saw this long before modern psychology. Epictetus taught, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do." Neediness is demanding emotional outcomes. Self-sufficiency is accepting internal responsibility. One creates pressure, the other creates peace. Why neediness destroys polarity? Neediness creates predictability in the wrong direction. She knows, if I pull away, he'll chase. If I delay, he'll escalate. If I change tone, he'll react. That predictability kills mystery, and without mystery, polarity collapses. A self-sufficient man does the opposite. When energy shifts, he stays grounded. No chase, no collapse, no emotional spike. That calm unpredictability keeps attraction alive. How it feels to her nervous system. Here's how neediness feels: pressure, urgency, emotional demand, responsibility, even if you never ask for anything directly. Here's how self-sufficiency feels: space, safety, freedom, calm. One creates obsession, the other creates withdrawal. Care is not need. Most men confuse care with need. They believe, if I don't show I care, I'll lose her. But care does not require dependency. Stoic care is presence without attachment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Psychologically translated, remain internally unchanged by external behavior. That is emotional power. Why women become obsessed with self-sufficient men? Because they feel free around them. Freedom fuels desire. Pressure kills it. There's another subtle effect. When you don't need her emotionally, she feels safer investing emotionally because she's not risking becoming her emotional crutch. That safety allows obsession to form. Intensity is not attraction. Most men were taught that intensity equals attraction. Intensity feels romantic, but intensity without regulation feels unsafe. Self-sufficiency is not absence of feeling, it's mastery of feeling. And mastery is rare. Rare is remembered. Why this point matters. Until emotional neediness is removed, nothing else works consistently. Compliments fail, confidence fades, attraction drops. Neediness doesn't push women away logically, it pushes them away biologically. Point 4. How to build emotional self-sufficiency. Most men ask the wrong question. How do I act less needy? Stoicism asks,
How do I become internally complete so neediness disappears on its own? That distinction changes everything. Self-sufficiency is a practice. It's not a trick. Like every Stoic discipline, it starts with responsibility for the inner world. Marcus Aurelius never wrote to control others. He wrote to control himself. That's where power lives. Step 1. Separate events from emotions. Events don't disturb you. Your judgment of them does. Delayed replies, mixed signals, silence, uncertainty. These are events, not threats. Ask, what am I telling myself about this? Not, what does this mean about me? That pause creates distance. Distance restores control. Step 2. Build internal validation. Most men outsource self-worth. Stoicism rejects this completely. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself." Validate yourself through character, not reaction. Step 3. Practice voluntary discomfort. This is where 97% fail. Stoics trained discomfort intentionally, because a man who can sit with discomfort does not chase relief. Neediness is chasing relief. Self-sufficiency is comfort with tension. Step 4. Remove emotional conditions. If she responds, I'm calm. If she pulls away, I'm anxious. That is emotional slavery. Stoicism teaches unconditional inner state. When your calm doesn't depend on her behavior, you become emotionally sovereign. Sovereignty creates attraction. Step 5. Build a life that doesn't need her. Purpose, structure, discipline, order. She adds to your life. She does not complete it. That doesn't make you unavailable. It makes you choosing. Chosen men are chaste.
A man who fears misunderstanding will never be self-sufficient. Emotional self-sufficiency is not emotional absence, it's emotional mastery. You still feel, but you do not collapse. When you build this trait, your reactions slow, your presence deepens, your energy steadies. Women feel it immediately, not logically, biologically. This is why obsession forms, because your calm is not borrowed, it's owned. This is point 4. Build emotional self-sufficiency the Stoic way, and you won't need to chase desire. Desire will find you. Point 5. Why women fear attaching to emotionally needy men. This is the part most men never hear honestly. Women don't reject emotionally needy men because they're cruel. They pull away because their nervous system feels danger, not physical danger, emotional danger. Here's the psychological truth. A woman's deepest fear in attachment is not abandonment, it's becoming emotionally responsible for another adult. That responsibility kills desire at the root. When a man is emotionally needy, his emotions become contingent. If she's warm, he's calm. If she's distant, he's anxious. If she's uncertain, he escalates. This puts pressure on her nervous system. Pressure creates avoidance. She doesn't think he's needy, she feels, I can't relax here. That feeling decides everything. Psychology calls this anticipatory emotional labor. She senses that if she commits, she will have to manage his moods, reassure his insecurity, stabilize his reactions, soften his anxiety. That future feels exhausting. Exhaustion destroys attraction. This is why women often say, he's nice, but I don't feel it. What they mean is, my nervous system doesn't feel free. Stoicism understood this centuries ago. Seneca warned that he who depends on others for emotional stability lives in fear. Fear repels desire. Another brutal truth. Emotionally needy men create guilt-based attachment. She stays because she feels bad leaving. Guilt is not desire. Guilt breeds resentment. Resentment kills intimacy. This is why women pull away suddenly. They sense early signs: over-reliance, emotional urgency, reassurance seeking, and reaction to silence. They leave before attachment deepens, not to punish, to protect themselves. Now here's the paradox most men miss. When a man is emotionally self-sufficient, a woman feels safe attaching. Why? Because attachment becomes a choice, not a burden. She doesn't fear being needed to regulate him. She doesn't fear losing herself. She doesn't fear becoming responsible. That safety unlocks obsession. Psychology confirms this. People attach deepest to partners who can self-regulate during stress and uncertainty. Self-regulation signals adulthood. Adulthood is attractive. Another layer: emotionally self-sufficient men don't fear loss. That fearlessness creates polarity. Polarity fuels desire. Most men try to avoid loss by tightening emotional grip. That accelerates loss. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Release attachment to outcome. Strengthen attachment to character. Marcus Aurelius again: never let the future disturb you. You will meet it if you have to with the same weapons of reason. A man who trusts himself emotionally does not fear attachment. That confidence is intoxicating. This is why women become obsessed with emotionally sovereign men, because obsession is not about intensity, it's about safety plus mystery. Needy men offer intensity without safety. Self-sufficient men offer safety without pressure. Pressure-free safety is rare. Rare creates fixation. This is the final truth. Women don't fear loving men. They fear being responsible for them. When you remove that fear, desire doesn't need to be forced. It flows. Point 6. Why emotional self-sufficiency makes you unreplaceable. Most men are interchangeable. Same reactions, same needs, same emotional patterns. That's why women move on easily. Not because men lack value, but because they lack emotional distinction. Emotional self-sufficiency creates distinction. It makes you unreplaceable. Not because you try harder, but because your inner state is rare. Here's the psychological truth. People replace what feels functionally similar. They don't replace what feels internally unique. Emotional self-sufficiency is internal uniqueness. Most men respond to women the same way: reassurance seeking, emotional escalation, anxiety during uncertainty, and collapse during silence. Once she's experienced that pattern, she's experienced most men. A self-sufficient man breaks the pattern. When uncertainty appears, he remains steady. When silence appears, he stays grounded. When emotion fluctuates, he doesn't mirror chaos. That contrast is unforgettable. Psychology calls this state-dependent memory. The brain remembers people based on how they made us feel internally. Most men create pressure, tension, emotional noise. They blur together. A self-sufficient man creates calm, relief, emotional spaciousness. That feeling is not easily replaced. This is why women often say, "No one made me feel the way he did." They're not talking about romance. They're talking about nervous system experience. Stoicism understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to remain internally unchanged by external conditions. That made him a psychological constant. Constants are rare. Rare becomes irreplaceable. Another layer most men miss: emotional self-sufficiency creates emotional scarcity. Not by withdrawing, but by not requiring. Not requiring makes your presence optional, and optional presence is valued more. When you don't need to be chosen, being chosen feels meaningful. Meaning fuels attachment. Most men think unreplaceability comes from offering more attention, more emotion, more availability. That increases supply. Supply lowers value.
Self-sufficiency lowers emotional supply without manipulation. You're not withholding, you're simply not leaking. Psychology confirms people attach deeply to partners who are emotionally steady across changing conditions. Consistency creates trust. Trust deepens attachment. Another subtle effect: when you're emotionally self-sufficient, you don't compete, you don't compare, you don't seek reassurance. That non-competition creates dominance without dominance behavior. Dominance without force is magnetic. This is why women struggle to replace emotionally sovereign men, not because those men were perfect, but because their inner state felt rare. Most men chase irreplaceability. Strong men become it by mastering their inner world. This is point 6. Emotional self-sufficiency doesn't make you louder, it makes you distinct. And distinct men are not easily forgotten. Point 7. Why women test emotionally self-sufficient men. Here's a truth that sounds uncomfortable until you understand psychology. Women don't test men they don't care about. They test men who feel emotionally important. Most men misunderstand tests. They think tests are games or manipulation or disrespect. They're not. Tests are information-gathering behaviors. When a woman encounters an emotionally self-sufficient man, her nervous system detects something unusual. He doesn't react like others. He doesn't chase. He doesn't collapse. He doesn't seek reassurance. That triggers curiosity. Curiosity triggers testing.
Her nervous system asks 2 silent questions. Is his calm real, or is it a mask? Does he stay centered when pressure appears? That's it. Everything else is noise. Why women test men. Tests are not punishment, they are verification. Delayed replies, reduced warmth, mild disagreement, emotional distance, ambiguity. Not to hurt you, to observe you. How men fail without realizing it. A needy man fails instantly. He escalates, he explains, he seeks reassurance, he increases effort, he reacts. His behavior answers her question. No, my calm depends on you. Attraction drops. How a self-sufficient man responds. An emotionally self-sufficient man does nothing extra. He stays steady. He doesn't punish. He doesn't chase. He doesn't explain. He doesn't withdraw emotionally. His inner state remains intact. That answers her question. Yes, his calm is real. The paradox of testing. Here's the paradox most men misunderstand. When a test fails, attraction disappears. When a test passes, testing often increases. Why? Because stability is rare, and rare things are verified more than once. Stoic wisdom on tests. Epictetus taught this clearly. External events are opportunities to demonstrate inner mastery. Tests are not obstacles, they are mirrors. Why tests backfire on strong men? Tests are designed to trigger reaction. When reaction doesn't appear, the test loses purpose, and something interesting happens. The focus shifts, not onto you, onto herself. Why is he still calm? Why didn't he chase? Why does this affect me? That inward turn is the beginning of obsession. Psychology calls this self-referential processing. When expectations aren't met, the mind turns inward. Inward focus deepens attachment. Consistency is the signal. Emotionally self-sufficient men don't punish tests. They don't become cold. They don't withdraw. They don't seek dominance. They remain consistent. Consistency communicates safety. Safety allows attachment. Stoicism teaches this simply. Passing a test is not proving anything. Passing a test is remaining unchanged. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way."
Tests don't block attraction, they reveal it. Why testing eventually stops? Testing stops when the nervous system concludes he is emotionally reliable. Once reliability is confirmed, testing is no longer needed. Desire stabilizes. This is why women say, "I feel like I can be myself with him." That feeling comes after testing. Point 7. Women test emotionally self-sufficient men to verify stability. Men who react fail. Men who remain grounded don't just pass, they become unforgettable. Point 8. Why women stay or return. This is the deepest layer, and most men never understand it because it doesn't appear immediately. It appears after distance. Why women sometimes leave. Women don't always leave because attraction is gone. They often leave to answer one question. Does separation bring relief or loss? Most men fail here. How men usually react. She pulls away, creates distance, reduces contact. The average man panics. He chases, explains, escalates emotion, seeks closure. He confirms her fear. If I stay, I'll be emotionally responsible. So she keeps going. How a self-sufficient man responds. When distance appears, he remains internally stable. No anger, no collapse, no emotional negotiation, just grounded presence. The psychology of contrast. Here's why this is powerful. The brain learns through contrast. With him, calm, spacious, regulated. Away from him, flat, restless, neutral. That contrast creates longing. Most men erase contrast by chasing. No contrast means no reflection, and reflection is where attachment returns. Psychology calls this state re-evaluation. The nervous system remembers where regulation lived. Why women think about him after leaving. I don't know why, but I keep thinking about him. That's not confusion. That's nervous system memory. Consistency again. Emotionally self-sufficient men don't punish tests. They don't become cold. They don't withdraw. They don't seek dominance. They remain consistent. Consistency equals safety. Safety invites return. Stoic truth about loss. Marcus Aurelius taught, "What is truly yours cannot be taken away." A self-sufficient man knows, if she returns, it's by choice. If she doesn't, he remains whole. That certainty is felt. Why women come back. When women leave needy men, they feel relief. Relief reinforces separation. When they leave self-sufficient men, they feel loss of regulation, and the body seeks to return. Why chasing destroys return. Chasing communicates, I cannot regulate without you. No one wants to return to a place of emotional responsibility. Psychology confirms this. People return more often to those who did not collapse in their absence. Collapse creates guilt. Guilt prevents return. The Stoic pattern. This is why emotionally self-sufficient men experience this pattern again and again. She leaves, time passes, she returns unexpectedly. Attraction is deeper. Not because he manipulated, because he remained unshaken. Final Stoic insight. Stand firm like a rock. The waves break themselves against it. A rock does not chase waves, it remains. Final point. Emotionally self-sufficient men do not punish women to stay. It creates a calm women struggle to leave behind. Women don't become obsessed with men who chase them. They become obsessed with men who are emotionally complete without them. Because that man doesn't pressure, doesn't demand, doesn't collapse, doesn't need. He chooses. And being chosen is far more powerful than being chased.